I'm Panish. I have around 8 years of experience in MicroStrategy. I have worked across multiple uh, tools, multiple areas apart from the MicroStrategy. I've worked as an architect, developer, administrator, and from the training perspective, today I'm just going to walk you through about the training content, like what are the topics that we're going to cover throughout the training course. And I will even discuss about what is MicroStrategy, the architecture of MicroStrategy, and few things that we know why MicroStrategy is uh, what are the things that can be handled in the MicroStrategy and what exactly it's all about. So that this is something from this is something about myself. So now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'll just walk you through about what are the things that we're going to cover throughout our training, so that you will just get a basic overview, like, okay, these are the topics that we're going to discuss on throughout the entire course. So the training that we're going to discuss is we're going to discuss about the MicroStrategy Desktop. We're going to see, like, when I say the MicroStrategy Desktop, we will discuss how exactly the MicroStrategy BI architecture is, how MicroStrategy works, it connects to the warehouse and everything. We will even discuss how exactly the query or the execution flow happens from start to end. We will even discuss about the look and feel, how the folder structures are, just creating and working on simple things. Thereafter, we will start with some of the administration topics. When I say the administration topics, we will discuss how to configure the MicroStrategy on a machine. We will see the installation, we will see the configuration, how to configure the server, how to restart your services, and whatever the configurations, like whatever the things that happens at the back end before you actually start working on MicroStrategy, before you start using your MicroStrategy, we're even going to discuss about the configuration. This will be really helpful to understand how exactly my MicroStrategy works, how all the components are interrelated to each other. Once that's been done, we're going to directly start discussing about the MicroStrategy Architect. When I say the MicroStrategy Architect, it's purely about the schema designing. So we will discuss few concepts about the warehouse, we will discuss about the logical modeling, we will discuss about the physical modeling concepts, and thereafter we will start creating various objects. Those are the schema objects. This is just the terminology, the schema objects or the application objects. Don't worry much about it at this particular point of time. We're going to discuss everything in detail in the coming classes, but this is just to make you familiarize with the environment. So we'll start designing the MicroStrategy Architect. We will start designing from the scratch. We will see how to connect to the warehouse, get the tables, and build up your entire architect designing. Once that's been done, the next few topics that we're going to discuss is about the MicroStrategy developer. So as a developer, what are the things that you can develop within the MicroStrategy tool? We will create, thereafter we will see how to create the subscriptions, the prompts, filters. So there are various objects that you can really create from the development perspective. So from this training, you're just not concentrating on architect, you're just not concentrating on developer. We're going to cover both the things. We're going to cover all the topics with respect to the MicroStrategy Architect as well as a MicroStrategy developer. So we will start with the administration, about the configuring of MicroStrategy. We will discuss about the MicroStrategy Architect. We will even discuss about the MicroStrategy developer. Thereafter, once you are much more comfortable, once you are much more familiarized, we will even discuss few of the advanced topics within the MicroStrategy. How you can create all the advanced objects, how you can fine tune your reports for the better performance, how you can create the cubes and everything. That will all be handled during our training. And once that's been done, we will see the MicroStrategy Web interface as well, and finally we will see how to create the dynamic report service documents and dashboards, because at the end it's always about the dashboards, the way you create in MicroStrategy. So we're going to discuss all the we're going to discuss everything about the documents and the dashboards, what are things that you can handle, all the flash components and everything, the linkings, everything in and out about the dashboards. So this is at very high level, and I just wanted to make sure we discuss what are the topics that we are going to focus on. So these are the training content, and this will be definitely be covered. Everything would be covered during our training. Okay. All right. Now, before we start with anything, the first thing that I always like to discuss is about the MicroStrategy architecture. How exactly the MicroStrategy works. If you look at this particular presentation, I have 4 components that I have listed over here. I have source system, I have ETL, data warehouse, and MicroStrategy. Let's forget the MicroStrategy for now. In any data warehousing project you work, you will definitely come across all these 4 terminologies: source system, ETL, data warehouse, and BI. That's a BI. It's a business intelligence. For our training, we are using the MicroStrategy. A MicroStrategy is a BI tool. Okay, so we will discuss each component one by one. As of now, let's forget about the MicroStrategy. Let's get the MicroStrategy aside. What is the source system over here? A source system forms your actual data feed. It's the actual source of your raw data. So whatever the data the client, whatever the client you're working for, right? They always record some kind of a transactions on a daily or a weekly basis. All those transactions are just being forwarded as a format, like just a flat file, raw data, unprocessed data. So which you want to load into your warehouse or into your database. So the source system forms your actual data feed. It forms the source of your actual data. It's a raw data, no unprocessed data, no kind of an aggregation, no transformations, nothing. Whatever the transactions have been recorded, it's just been directly forwarded to your team for the further processing. So the source system which has been listed over here, that forms your actual source of data. Once you get the actual data feed, okay, once you get the actual data for which you want to process it to the warehouse, you need a ETL tool. So once my raw data resides under the source system, ETL tool will help you to fetch the data from the source system and load into the warehouse. What is a ETL? ETL is a backend tool. The name is extract, transform, and load. When I say an extract, transform, and load, it's a backend tool which will help you to fetch the data from the source system, perform all the transformations, required transformations or aggregation, the pre-aggregations, and it will load into the warehouse. So the first step the ETL tool is going to perform is to extract. In my source system, I will have a huge data. I will have multiple columns showing various kind of a data. But in my warehouse, as per my requirement, I just need a subset of columns that I want to save it under my warehouse environment. So it's going to extract only those columns which are required from my reporting requirement perspective. So the ETL tool, the first thing it's going to do is going to extract the required column. It's going to extract the required data from the source system. The second thing what it's going to do is it's going to perform all the transformations. When I say the transformations, it's just kind of a data scrubbing. If in case you want to all kind of a mapping, some kind of a pre-aggregation, some kind of a constraints. So whatever things that you have to define, that would be done under the transformation phase. And once all this transformation has been done, finally it's going to load into your warehouse. So the ETL, it's the name itself suggests, it's going to perform the 3 steps: extract the required data, perform the required transformations, and finally load into the warehouse. ETL is a backend tool. There are various ETL tools available in the market. We have DataStage, we have Informatica, and so on. And that depends upon your project to project what ETL tool you're using. Okay. Finally, we have the data warehouse. When I say the data warehouse, it's the data has been stored in a much more structured way. I have all the required tables, I have the columns, all the data resides under the columns, every constraints have been applied. So all the data has been stored in much more structured way, which will be really which is ready to be used for my reporting. So we have just discussed the three components over here. We have the source system, we have the ETL, and we have the data warehouse. When I say a data warehouse, it's a database basically. It could be any kind of a database, that depends upon your project to project. It could be Oracle, Teradata, Netezza, anything. MicroStrategy supports any kind of a data warehouse reporting. So it's independent, whatever the database you use, MicroStrategy is going to support. Before we go ahead and discuss about the MicroStrategy architecture, I'm just going to take a pause over here. Any questions so far with whatever the things that we have discussed? No? Okay. Now, let's discuss about the, one second. Alright. Let's discuss about the MicroStrategy. If you look over here, we have two things, MicroStrategy tool and the metadata. This is also a component of MicroStrategy. Whenever you perform any kind of a request operation, if you're trying to run any report, you're requesting any kind of a data, MicroStrategy does not hit the warehouse directly. What it will do is, it will first come to the metadata. A metadata is a component of MicroStrategy. What is the metadata? Let's first try to understand what is a MicroStrategy metadata. A MicroStrategy metadata is a repository which will store all the object definition. So whatever the objects I create, I'm just going to give you some object names, but we will see much more in detail. So whatever the objects you create, these are the MicroStrategy objects overview. I have something called as schema objects, application objects like attributes, reports, facts, transformations, filters, consolidations, and so on. There are n number of objects which are present in MicroStrategy. So basically, whenever you create any kind of an object, any object in MicroStrategy, all its corresponding definition would be stored in metadata. So now let's say I'm creating an object which gives me the year information. A metadata will store the metadata will store that particular definition, saying that okay, this year object is pointing to which table and the column. If I'm creating an object which gives me the revenue data, metadata will store the information saying that okay, the revenue as an object is pointing to this particular table and the column. So the metadata does not contain actual data, it is just contains the object definition. So whatever the objects you create in your MicroStrategy reporting environment, all its corresponding definition would be stored in the metadata. So now whenever you try to run any kind of a report, it will first come to the metadata. Once it comes to the metadata, it's going to read all the object definition, and based on that it's going to formulate the SQL query. So now if I take an example over here, let's say I'm trying to run a report which gives me the yearly sales, a yearly revenue information. So I've placed one object which gives me the year data, I have placed one object which gives me the revenue data. When I try to run that report, it will first come to the metadata. As I say, once it comes to the metadata, it's going to read the object definition. It will see okay, how exactly the year attribute, like my year as an object is pointing to which table and column, my revenue as an object is pointing to which table and column, and based on that it's going to formulate the SQL query. And once that SQL query is ready, it's going to open a connection to the warehouse, fire that particular SQL, fetch the required data, and once my data has been fetched, it will come back to the MicroStrategy and display that particular data in the format of the report or the dashboards. Okay, so the MicroStrategy, I'm just going to repeat over here. Whenever you perform any kind of a request operation from MicroStrategy, the first thing it will do is it will come to the metadata. Within the metadata, it will read all the objects definition that you are using, and based on that, it's going to formulate the SQL. Once my SQL has been ready, it will open a connection to the warehouse, fire that particular SQL, fetch the data, and once that data has been fetched, it will come back to MicroStrategy and display that data as per the format that you have set in the reports or the dashboards. Clear? So in any data warehousing project you work, you will definitely come across 4 components: source system, ETL, data warehouse, and BI. From BI perspective, we are discussing on MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is a BI, that's a business intelligence reporting tool, which will help you to fetch the data from the warehouse and display in the formats of reports and dashboards. Okay, so I'm just going to take a pause over here. Any question with respect to the MicroStrategy BI architecture?
Yes, Emma. I have one question. So when we try to start some action in MicroStrategy, you said the action or the description will form in my metadata. So that means that will create any structure of the object or something, or
yes. So now let's see. Let me just go to the next slide. Okay, these are all MicroStrategy objects that we can create. We're going to discuss everything in detail during the training course. But just to give an overview, let's say I have a schema objects. I have the attributes or facts. When I create this object, I'll be pointing to a specific table and the columns. So when I start working on MicroStrategy, I'm going to import the required tables, and thereafter I will start creating all these objects. When I create the objects, definitely I will select one of the table or one of the columns to which I have to get it mapped to, and those information would be stored in the metadata.
okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. Anything else? Any other question, please? No? We are good? Okay. The next slide just gives you an overview about the types of MicroStrategy objects. Whenever you start working on MicroStrategy as an architect, you're going to first create the schema objects. First, you always have to start working on schema objects, like you have attributes, facts, hierarchies, and so on. So we're going to discuss everything in detail, but this is just to make you familiarized with the terminologies and with what all types of objects that we have. Once we are done with the development of the schema objects, thereafter we will start creating the application or the public objects. So when I say the application objects, we have filters, prompts, and so on. And once I'm done with the schema objects, once I'm done with the application objects, finally I will create my required reports, documents, and dashboards. Whenever you work on a MicroStrategy, there are 2 interfaces we have. One is called as MicroStrategy Developer, another is MicroStrategy Web. A MicroStrategy Developer is a tool where you will be designing entire your MicroStrategy environment. So as a developer or an architect, I'll be much more concentrating on MicroStrategy Developer tool. A MicroStrategy Web is a user interface. It's just a UI where end users, all my clients, generally log into the MicroStrategy environment, browse to a folder, and run the required reports and documents to get the data and do the analysis. So I'm just going to show you both the interface today, so that just to make you familiarize. Right now what you're seeing over here is the MicroStrategy Developer. So I've just accessed the MicroStrategy Developer, and MicroStrategy Developer is, as I said, is the tool where your entire designing will be done. So as an architect or a developer, I'm going to much more concentrate on MicroStrategy Developer, because entire development and the architect happens over here. As soon as let me just log out. Okay, so as soon as I log into the MicroStrategy Developer, on the left hand side, whatever the folders you see, those are called as project source. When I say a project source, this project source are one-to-one mapped to your metadata. Don't worry about it. We will see everything, how to configure the metadata, how to configure the project source. This is just for a demo perspective. I'm just making you familiarize with the entire environment. We're gonna see every configuration, everything in detail. So as soon as I log in into the MicroStrategy developer, I see two folders over here. Those are project source. Once I try to open the project source, it will ask me for my credentials. Every project source, just remember one thing, every project source is one-to-one mapping with your metadata. One metadata can point to only one project. Okay, so when I say all the informations have been recorded in the metadata, that is at the highest level. So when you start working on MicroStrategy, you will understand the highest level is always the project source. Once I try to log in into the project source, I have to authenticate myself, and once my credentials are validated, I can see multiple projects. So whatever the things you see over here, that is MicroStrategy tutorial or my first project, those are called as projects in the MicroStrategy. Each project is pointing to a specific warehouse. When I say a specific warehouse, it is pointing to the actual warehouse where my data resides. So I'll just open a notepad over here. So what I'm trying to say is that when you when you use the MicroStrategy, the first thing that you will see is the project source. Project source is pointing directly to the metadata. Once my credentials have been authenticated, I will see number of projects, and each project will be pointing to a specific data warehouse where the actual data resides. So whatever the architect, whatever the designing I have to do, it has to be done under the project. Okay. So now if I just open any one of the project, you will see. So now if you look over here, as soon as I open the MicroStrategy tutorial project, you will see a few folder structures over here. This is just segregated based on the type of objects. So I can have the schema, as we have discussed the type of object, we have schema objects, we have application objects. So corresponding to that, all folders have been created. This particular structure is by default. Irrespective of any project I work, my same folder structure would be in sync. So this will help you, like if in case I work on one project, you really do not have to worry, because the same folder structure, same interface lies for the other project as well. So if I open the second project, in our case, if there is my first project, you will see all the same folder structure over there as well. It's going to be everything same. If I expand the public objects, I can just expand the schema objects. So the entire look and feel remains the same throughout the various projects that you have. So even if we discuss on one project, we can just go ahead and create anything or work on any other project as well. Okay, so I have every folders like for the each of the type of the objects that I can have in MicroStrategy. So I will see, like under the public objects, I will see a folder structure based on the various public objects, and same thing for the schema objects. So this is just an interface of the MicroStrategy developer. I'm just going to run a sample report to show you something. Let me just create one of the sample report under the MicroStrategy tutorial project. I'm just going to create a new report. Just wait for a minute. Okay, so if I look over here, I just have all the objects which are already created. Okay, I'm just going to drag and drop. Don't worry about the objects that we are using over here. These are all the objects are already created in this particular project. So let me just place an object which gives me the year information. Second, which gives me something, let's say region information, and I'm going to use one object which gives me the revenue data. Okay, now I'm going to run this particular report. As soon as I click on execution, it's directly going to display me the data, which means that at no point of time I'm going to write any kind of a SQL query. A MicroStrategy is a powerful tool. At the backend itself, it generates the query. As I said, whenever you perform any kind of a request, it will come to the metadata, read the object definition, and based on that, it's going to formulate the SQL. So same thing has been happened over here. So we have placed the year, region, and the revenue data, like a revenue object. At the backend, it read all the object definition, and based on that, it formulated the SQL. Once the SQL was ready, it just open a connection to the warehouse, fire that particular SQL, and fetch the data. If I show you the SQL which has been generated by MicroStrategy, this is the exact SQL which has been generated. So it has a select clause, from clause, where clause, and so on. So at no point of time we're gonna write. Now, so if you look over here, my SQL has been generated, and accordingly the data has been fetched. So that's the reason, as we say, the MicroStrategy is a powerful tool. It generates a SQL based on the object you define, and accordingly my data has been fetched. If you look over here, I'm seeing the data at a year, region, and the revenue level. I can even get some kind of a detailed information. So now let's say I'm seeing the data for a year 2010. Now I'm interested to see the data at a level down. As soon as I just double click on 2010, okay, one more report would be generated which will give me the detailed information about the year 2010. So as soon as I double click on 2010, it added a quarter object which gives me the breakdown based on the various quarters, that is 2010 quarter 1, 2010 quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. So from one report itself, I can even generate multiple reports which will give me the detailed information. So if I'm interested from 2010 quarter 1, I'll just double click over here. It will further go a level down which will give me the data based on the months. So within 2010 quarter 1, I have 3 months, that's Jan, Feb, March 2010. And if I'm still interested in to go a level down, I can double click on Jan 2010, which will give me the data based on all the dates which are present in the January 2010. And based on that, if you look over here, it is displaying me the data for all the dates. So I can just move my region attribute to the start so that I can see the data. So if you look over here, for a central region, all the dates that are present in January 2010, and I can see the entire detailed information. So if you look over here, we did nothing. We just created one master report, and from that report, from a year, I came to a quarter level. From quarter level, I came to a month level, and from month level, I came to a day level. So it's not only that you're displaying the data at one static format and a static level. No, from one level, that is the level which has been represented by the current report, I can actually go to the detail level as much as possible as per my requirement. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is all about the MicroStrategy developer. I just made you familiarized with the environment. There is something also called as MicroStrategy Web, as I said. A MicroStrategy Web, as I said, is a user interface. So let me just show you the MicroStrategy Web as well. So this is just the a user interface. As soon as I try to log in into the MicroStrategy, I see the same projects which I've shown you under the MicroStrategy developer. So I have a MicroStrategy tutorial as well as I have my first project. So I'll just try to access one of the project. As soon as I try to access, I have to authenticate myself. So we'll just wait for the authentication. Okay, I will just execute this. Okay. Alright. So if you look over here, this is the MicroStrategy Web interface. I have logged into one of the project, and I can just directly browse to any of the folder where I can just go ahead and execute my reports, documents, or dashboard. So I'll just run one sample dashboard over here. I'll just go ahead and run one of the sample dashboard. Let's say top 10 airports. As soon as I click on this particular dashboard, at the back end all my data sets have been getting executed, or once it's been done, it's going to show me the data. So this is just one of the sample dashboard that I'm going to show you, like just to discuss what are the things that can be done and how my data can be represented in the various format. So if you look over here, this is just one of the dashboard that we have, which gives me the airport information. So what exactly the information has been displayed? It displays the top 10 world airports. Along with that, it gives me the current year volume with the passenger count, with the percentage change year on year, what is the percentage of international passengers, and so on. So my data is not represented in a standard grid or a graph format. It's a combination. So if you look over here, it gives me a trend chart. It's giving me the normal grid data. It has a graph bar and so on. Even one more thing, important thing that you can see over here, as soon as I click on any of the airport, at the bottom section it gets reflected automatically. So if I click on Paris, it gives me one image about the Paris airport and some kind of a monthly trend that is from January to October 2007. As soon as I change any of the airport, I click on, let's say, Atlanta, the same information has been updated in the bottom section. So it has some kind of a link within. As soon as I click on any one of the airport, the corresponding information gets updated. So this is something about the passenger volume trend, where in my first section it shows me the data as a combination of grid and graph. I even have a linking over here. So as soon as I click on any one of the airports, the bottom image gets updated with some text description and even the monthly breakdown bars. If I click on the historical trend, it will give me altogether different set of data with a different look and feel. So within one dashboard, I'm displaying two pages, one which is giving me the passenger volume trend with some kind of a preset format, and as soon as I click on the historical trend, it gives me different set of data with a different look and feel. So if you look over here, this is something called as a bubble grid chart, where my size of the bubble indicates the passenger count, where the color indicates the percentage year on year change. More the size of the bubble, more is the passenger count. Green color indicates the positive change, whereas the red color indicates the negative percentage change. I even have a flexibility to select or deselect the airports for which I want to see the data. So if I deselect some of the airports, if you look at the bubble grid, my grids are getting updated based on the selection I do. So if I select only 2 airports, corresponding data has been displayed. So I can just keep on adding the airports, and accordingly every time my chart also would be updated. At a runtime, I can even altogether change the chart display. I do not want to display this bubble grid. Instead, I need a normal line chart. As soon as I click on line chart, my data would be displayed in the format of lines. And the same functionality remains over here as well. I can just select or deselect some of the airports, and accordingly it would be reflected. Okay, so basically, if you look over here, I've just done one dashboard. Within one dashboard, I have the different two layouts, and accordingly my data has been displayed based on the selection I do, based on the linkings and everything. Don't worry, this is just a sample. We're gonna consider everything. We're gonna discuss everything much more in detail during our training. I have my MicroStrategy is such a good tool that I can create a dashboard also on the fly within few seconds. I'll just create one sample dashboard, and you will see that my dashboard is just ready. One page is just ready within few seconds. So let me just create one dashboard very quickly. That is something called as visual analysis dashboard. Okay, this is one type of dashboard that can be created on MicroStrategy. You just have to select the objects. I will see a new dashboard over here. I will select one of the source. The dashboard which I'm trying to create is called as the visual analysis dashboard. I just have to drag and drop few objects, select the certain format, and my dashboard would be ready. So I'll just select one of my source, that is like through which I can get in all the objects for which I want to display data. So I will select one format in which I want to display. We'll start with a simple grid. I want to display the data in a grid format. I will add certain more objects to be displayed in the grid. Let's say I want to display the data for country, category, region, and corresponding to that I'm displaying the cost and discount data. I will add few more visualizations. I will add few more charts. Let's say this time I will add a heat map. I will change what are the data that I want to see. I want to see the data for region. I want to see the data for category. But this time I want to see the data based on revenue, the size by revenue, and color by profit. Okay, so if you look over here, I'm just displaying the data in a heat map format where my boxes indicates the revenue data. More the size of a block, more is the revenue data, whereas the color indicates the profit information. Green color indicates the positive profit. Red, of course, it's a loss. I will add few more things. Let me just add the visualization. This time I'm going to change the position. I will add a normal pie chart, and let's say I'm going to display based on the region. Alright, so if you look over here, I'm displaying the data based on the region, and what kind of information I'm seeing? I'm seeing the data for, let's say, gross revenue. So I'm just dragging and dropping few objects, and my charts are getting updated automatically. So in this particular chart, I'm displaying the data based on the various regions and is giving me the gross revenue information. I will just add one more final visualization just to finish it off. I will just add at the bottom section. Okay, and this I will display, let's say, a bar chart, and that's it. I'm not going to make any change. I'm going to display this as a presentation mode, and I can, let me just change the height and width. I can change the individual height and width so that it gives me a look and feel, a better look and feel. I think that's it. And if I give it to the presentation mode, here you go. So we just created one dashboard page within a minute or within few minutes over here. So it's a very simple and straightforward. This is one of the types of a dashboards. We still have much more complex dashboards that will really take good time that we're gonna see, but this is just for the demo perspective. I've just created one sample dashboard. If you look over here, it was very easy, right? We just drag and drop few objects. We selected a specific format, and my dashboard page is ready. I'm just going to take a pause over here, and I'm going to open it for all of you. Any question with any of the things that we have discussed so far? No? Okay. So this is all that we have from the demo perspective. So I really thank you all. Thanks for joining for the demo. This is just for the demo perspective where we have discussed the architecture of MicroStrategy. We even went through like what are the topics that we're gonna cover up throughout our training course. We saw the MicroStrategy interfaces, the MicroStrategy developer, the MicroStrategy web. We ran few samples from the MicroStrategy developer. We understood the interface of the developer. We came to the MicroStrategy web. We ran a sample dashboard. We created a sample dashboard. So this is all that we have from the demo. We're gonna cover everything in detail from scratch and to the final dashboards and the document development throughout our training course. So whatever the topics we have discussed, that will be covered much more in detail, in depth during the entire training course. This is okay. Alright, so thanks a lot for joining in, and we will see you and we'll continue with the training course.
Panish, actually I have
Yes,
few
please.
questions to ask you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I'm so sorry.
I have few questions to ask you.
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah, so there is a MicroStrategy mobile too. Are you going to teach that?
MicroStrategy Mobile is something that I will discuss the overview and the how the configuration happens, because I really can't show you on a mobile device, right? So what you have to do is the development remains the same. Okay,
Okay.
there is not much difference in the development perspective. So when you say the MicroStrategy mobile development, you of course you're going to create the dashboards and something. It is just that you have to make sure your height, width, the page size is it constant, and what are the functionality that will be supported in mobile device. So I'm just going to cover all those development perspective, and I will even show you from the mobile configuration. That will be really helpful when you create any kind of a dashboards within the mobile.
Okay.
All right, so we'll just stop over here for today. Thanks again for joining in the demo, and we'll continue with the training.